Good morning, everybody. LOOONNNGGG here with another War of the Visions video, and it is finally time to do an updated War of the Visions UR unit tier list. And there are a lot of UR units in this game. In fact, if I scroll down a little bit, I think there's that many. If I was successful in downloading a picture for every UR unit, I'm pretty sure it's exactly that number. And if I missed one, forgive me that miss, put it in the comment section. I'll add it to the update list to this video, and I plan on trying to keep this updated occasionally, at least more often than like a year since the last time I did one, and my last one was pretty much worthless. So here we go. Now, let me show you how I'm breaking this down. I'm not going to use S, A, B, C, D. I don't know, that doesn't like speak to me in War of the Visions. Instead, what I'm doing is basing it on cost limited auto PvP. I might give a nod to manual PvP here and there, but keep in mind, basically every UR unit in this game is usable in PvE, especially some of them in like high scoring guild raids or chaining events or something like that. But I'm thinking about auto PvP, and I'm using the cost. So I think there are some units in this game that deserve 110 cost, which is more than any unit has, but that's like meta defining, right? That's like, if you're going to use that in cost limited, I really want you to be punished for using that unit to just kind of even the playing field a little bit. Then we have the normal costs, 100, 90, 80, 70, and I made a 60 cost here, which you might be thinking, there is no 60 cost UR units, and you'd be right. I just think there are some units that belong in this tier where if you're using them, you literally get the reward of only taking in MR spots, an MR cost spot in your squad. So for these first couple tiers, for these bottom tiers, I'm basically just going to snap my fingers and all the units in that tier are going to appear. That way it'll speed this video up, keep it from being an hour-and-a-half long video. By the time we get closer to the top, I will break down why I think those higher tier units belong there, but let's get started. Let's go ahead and dive into the 60 cost tier right now. And here we go. There is your 60 cost units. These are the ones that I think you should get an extra big reward, as in it should cost you less than a UR unit if you are running them in your team comp. I do want to give a special few shout outs for these early tiers. The obvious first special shout out is the Eileen. Obviously my YouTube channel was founded on her. She was like the initial centerpiece to my account, and it hurts me to call her sub UR, but she spent most of her War of the Visions career there. That's where she lives right now, and in my opinion, she lives there with these other people. The Persona 5 units, it also hurts me to put them there, but those units are literally sitting on Master Ability 1. So if I had to put them in the game right now, regardless of how dominant somebody like Joker was, or the potential of Violet and Makoto, they don't even have Master Ability 2, much less a 140. So I think you would have to give a 60 cost to them. Hope, I don't know, maybe Hope has something in the bag. There are people who talk about being able to use Hope. I just haven't seen it. Somebody's gonna have to show me that before I believe that man's a UR unit in this game again. And there we go. I do think you have your gun chainers right here, which again, if you're talking PvE chaining opportunities, it's there. They could definitely do something for you, but these are the units that I just think are at the bottom of the UR tier list in War of the Visions. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is move on to the 70 cost tier, and we're going to unveil those right now. And here you go. I think these units are worthy of being called UR units. However, I think basically all of them have a UR unit that is better than them at the thing they do, or they're just really old and need some like damage modifiers to be more tanky, or in the case of, this man who I'll move up here, a limit break would be really nice for him. Also just rerun Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy Tactics. Like I know I really do understand why they don't do it in terms of like licensing, and it's hard to get the rights, but come on, man. We love these characters. We love these games. Give Thanker to Limit Break and rerun Final Fantasy Tactics to update our guys like Ramza and Agrius in the game. Anyway, if you're a 70 cost unit, these are the ones, and it's a big chunk. Notice how many units I'm putting in here, and notice how a lot of them are just old. I think King Elda got really good upgrades, because most of King Elda's life, he was definitely living down here in the 60 cost tier, but he's hanging out comfortably in the 70 cost tier now. He can tank. Is he one of the better tanks in the game? No, but can he serve you as a UR tank? Yes, he can. There's some good damage dealers down here like Urel, Aranea, who I think some people could argue maybe should be in the next tier up, and I'll listen to that argument if you want to make it. Just know that I consider these units here to have some value. I just don't think they are some of the best at what they do, or I think they're old. A character like Yuna, it's hard to imagine, but Yuna here used to be the most OP unit in the game. She was that 110 cost meta defining unit. Her limit break could hit evade, and evade was really hard to deal with. She had holy and full life and all of this healing, and you know, I think now if you're playing Yuna, you're probably taking one. Like, that's not a great, there's much better support options. Still, she's playable, so there she goes. You have a unit like UR Zazon right here, who Earth Evade is still very much a thing. There's just a host of Earth Evade units that are better than he is. So even though he's a 100 cost unit in the game, there's no way he warrants 100 costs right now. Winter Luartha used to be Flagbearer Glassy before she came out. Units like Garvel, who his big thing, again, back in the day, Detonation Blast, AoE guaranteed hit. Cool. But we got guaranteed hit all over the game these days, so it's just not as good as it used to be. You have Tifa hanging out down here. I don't put a ton of faith into Wind Evade. That's why Tifa and 2P are hanging out here. I think if you want to play it, that's awesome. But if you were to try to play like Wind Evade with these two units, I would give them to you at 70 cost and then see what you could build around them as like maybe your third big banger unit. So this is what I feel the 70 cost list is. I think some people might argue for like Pissarro moving up. I'm trying to look what else on here might be, you know, might be controversial. Agrius could just use a buff and she'd shoot right back up this list. There's a lot of PvE stars on here like Chunok and Farm that just aren't great in PvP. Anyway, that's a 70 cost list. These are the units that I think definitely you can play them. I just think you could, you need a little hookup in terms of cost value if you are. Now, the next tier is 80. With the 80 cost tier, these are units that I think are UR units. Exactly. Like if you were to identify, like they have nice stats, they can do nice things for your team, they can a lot of times do multiple things for your team. Some of them are pretty new, they have some status effects, AoE resist, all of those things, but not overtuned at all. Just like right where the game should be. That's what this next list is. So let's reveal that one right now. Okay, there's your 80 cost list. Note some newer units in this game. You've got FF9 units on here. You have a unit like Dwayne, who's been out for a really, really long time. I thought about putting Dwayne down here in the 70 cost tier, but he does have access to Pierce. He's a dark unit, so to me, he like hangs on for what a UR unit in this game could be, but I do foresee him falling down this list pretty soon. A unit like Victoria hanging out up here, I think I'll get some pushback on that, but Charm is still really hard to deal with, and piercing damage is legit in this game right now. I really like Hyo and Reagan as sort of like what a modern day high damage Bash brother kind of unit is. I don't think they're overtuned, but I do think they do that job pretty well. So I'm throwing them in there. There's a lot of tanks hanging out in here. Your Charlottes, Barretts, Fryevia, King Mont, Reigns of the world. Heck, Rain is borderline pushing his way into 90 with a few things I've seen him do, but I'll keep him here. I think there's a unit like Knight of Ruinstern where he's a 100 cost unit in the game, but great swords are pretty good right now, and even though he's so old, he's definitely not worth the 100 cost. Again, even with how legit great swords are, still I think he's worthy of an 80 cost price tag. Here, Setia is another 100 cost unit. I do foresee her falling down this list at some point, and you know what, I'm thinking about it. She has such terrible accuracy. I'm gonna go ahead and throw her down into 70. Let's just make that adjustment midway through, put Setia down into 70. There's older units on here like Gilgamesh. I really thought about putting him lower, but I do still like having Time Mage. Haste and Quicken are still fun tools to play around. He's definitely not worthy of the 100 cost price tag that he comes with in game, but that he does do some damage and has some supportiness to him, so I'll let him hang out in 80 for now. Medina, I think Medina is a unit that's aged pretty well, especially for a unit that is given away to newer players. I do think you could get some payoff building her up as a mage. I already talked about Victoria a little bit. Vega and Bronwell are some like newer characters in the game that I think are, pretty well built. Like you could play Vega and Bronwell and feel pretty good about yourself. Lena's a really good support. I just don't think she's overtuned at all. I think she belongs here. Who else here is worth mentioning? Note there's a lot of 100 cost units here because when these units came out in the game, they were meant to be really good. They were meant to be cutting edge, but kind of a problem with cost limited in War of the Visions is those old 100 cost units. There's not some sort of system for tuning the cost down as you go. And one of the things I'm realizing as I do this tier list is maybe there ought to be. Like maybe that should be a thing in War of the Visions, but it's not. Anyway, this is the list of 80 cost units. I'm just going to say again, these are units that I feel like do their job just fine. They're not terrible at it or worse than they should be, but they're also not as good as the best units in the game. And then the 90, 100, and 110 costs, this is where I'm going to start talking about units that I think are some of the best in the game. So let's move on to the 90 cost list now, and I'm going to break those down a little bit more. And here it is. So let's go unit by unit at this point. Let me give you how I feel about these characters and why I think they are higher than 80. I do want to mention that as I did this, I did lump a whole nother little group into the 80 costs. I just missed these. When I was sorting earlier, I checked my notes when I saw Little Leo the Bold, and I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? Anyway, I added Little Leo the Bold, Resnick, Mashri Horn, Irvine, Renoa, and Gernsbeck to the 80 cost here. Again, units that I think are good, but just didn't, I think, justify hanging out in the 90 cost. So here we go. Starlight Elena. I still feel like Starlight Elena is hanging on up here. Her ability to be built into evasion, to be hard to kill. She's not at the top of the game anymore with courage and re-raise removal being such a thing, but she does a lot of damage. She's great for chaining with a mono light team. I still think she's worthy of that 90 cost price tag. Lemure AoE haste is really OP. She could do AoE haste and heal, and I think that keeps her up there. Hey, Velis, guess what? AoE hasting and healing, I think is really good. Our guy, oh gosh, I wanted to call him Skahal, but it's not Skahal. It is, Renan. Renan, you know what? I'm looking at Renan, and I'm talking myself into an 80 cost for him. I still think Renan's okay, but I am going to move him down into 80 as I go through the list here. Celis, I do still think like water has a place in the game, and I like Celis's ability to counter magic, but I am going to drop her down into 80. I think as a magic tank, that is the one thing she does, but she might not do another thing great, so I think I'm going to drop her down into 80 as well. So you can see I'm kind of like talking myself. I made a whole initial page of notes, but as I go through these lists, I'm kind of talking myself out of them a little bit as we roll on. Okay, next, Flag Bearer Glassy. Yeah, still a great unit. Pairs incredibly well with Wind Veritas, who's just come out. She chains with him. She piercing, which is piercing is still really good. She stays here. She's hard to kill, has resist buffs. Sottily, Charm, still really tough to deal with. He does a lot of magic damage, has good range, can support a little bit. I still think these are really powerful wind DPS units. Perrine, hey, if you're building water, here's a water strike high damage unit in Perrine that I still really like. Halloween Lucia, interestingly enough, is a 70 cost unit in game, but I still just think is a dominant mage who's really hard to kill, has that shield she can put on herself, can turn people into frogs. Love her up here. Yuffie, I put Yuffie into cost 90 because look, if you're trying to do like fire evade, I still think Yuffie can pull it off. Is she 100 cost worthy? No, I don't think so, but in my mind, she is still hanging out like in that 90 cost range. I do foresee her maybe coming back to earth a little bit into 80 cost, and maybe some people in the comments section can drop their opinion on that. Amnelis, really high damage water mage, like her a lot. Her ability to give people healing when their HP drops low, and magic shield's really good right now. Sephiroth is still like the most played unit in War of the Visions, or at least one of the most played units, and he's still legit. He used to be here, like he used to be the 110 cost king of this game. He's fallen down a little bit though. I'm gonna keep him in 90. I do still think he's better than like your 80, 70 costers of the world. Sylvie does a lot of damage, does a lot of supporting, gives gives that one-hit shield to her squad. I like Sylvie a lot. The Elric brothers are both really hard to kill, both striking damage. You see them a lot in PvP still, so I do think they are still better than the crowd, right? I think they're still a step up over the rest of the gang. Wingstern, hey, here's how I feel about Wingstern, and it's kind of how I've always felt about him. I think he's better than average, but he's never been the guy. Like, he never lived here. He's kind of just always lived here, and I think he still does. Kefka does a lot of fire magic damage and deals out status effects. Status effects are really annoying. High damage is great. That's where Kefka's gonna live. Addison Rae, again, she was never this, but I refuse to believe that she has ever been lower than a 90 cost on my tier list. She is tough to deal with. I hate fighting Addison Rae. I don't know if it's because she's like beat bopping me with her Instagram emojis or what, but like, she's living in that 90 cost. Howlett the Heavens Blade is a lot like a magic version of somebody like Reagan in my mind, but more damage, maybe a little bit harder to kill sometimes, but the fact that he's magic damage I think does elevate him a little bit. I think he's a good unit. Dialdo, I really struggled with maybe putting Dialdo up into the 100 cost tier, but I just have him in 90. I still think Dialdo's really good. I think he's borderline here though. Like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna drop him here. I think I'm gonna let him live in the 90 cost area. Okay, Bartz. Bartz does a ton of damage. If you guys ever have slept on the amount of damage that old Bartz could put out, you're sleeping and you're about to get slapped with a sword. He also has his follow-up attack, which is really nice. Ferris, still a great water damage dealing unit, pairs really well with Summer Glassy right here. I have them both at the 90 cost. Summer Glassy is the better version of a water tank, and definitely one of the reasons why I think Celis hangs out in 80 cost now. Husbando Jaden, hey, piercing damage is good. Ice is a good element right now. I like him there. And you have Grifford up here as an ice axe bro to pair him with if you want to. Like, every time I see Grifford, he performs better than 80 cost. I don't think Grifford ever will go up on this list, but I do think he belongs up here with somebody like a Squall, who they both do a lot of damage. They both seem really hard to kill. Squall brings a little bit more uniqueness with his like honeycomb barrier, or at least it was unique when he came out. I think both of these people are trending more towards 80, but right now they still scare me a little bit. Melnia, another unit who's trending down towards 80, not because I don't like her kit, but just because Gunners kind of struggle. I don't know, like Gunners just aren't impressive. The current like vision card lineup for them is okay. She does have one of the best vision cards in the game. She has access to it, but she's just not, like, she's a 100 cost unit in game, but she's not a 100 cost unit on my list. Okay, Vivi. Now here was one that I wrestled with. Vivi feels like this to me. He feels like somebody you should have to pay full 100 cost price for if we were running a tournament based on my tier list, which maybe someday we will. However, I think he's a little bit carried by young Helena, whose spoiler alert is higher than 90 because she's not on here yet. So I'm going to leave him in 90 for now. I do think he has potential to move up. I don't know. Then Winter Roth, love her as a damage dealing support unit. Lightning Asterius, he's never been higher than this in the game. He's a lot like Wingstern to me, where he does a lot of damage. He's sort of tough to kill. He's a great, 1-2 combo with some other greatsword units. There's New Oberon. I'm not gonna lie with New Oberon, I haven't seen him enough yet. I'm slow building him on my main, so I don't have a ton of experience, but this is a very new unit that I just haven't seen a bunch of yet. He still looks strong in theory, so I'm going to put him at that 90 cost, the right above, better than average, but we'll see from there. Okay, new Shadow Lynx. She's good, she's just not dominant. I have her on my new player account. She's really doing a lot of work for me there, so I'm going to have her live in the 90. Water Veritas, big question mark next to her. We have not seen her in global. No one has this girl built all the way, so we'll find out. I'm going to put her here for now because I think her kit looks nice. And then Zidane. I mean, Zidane is surprisingly pretty good as a Wind of Age unit. He's definitely better than your other Wind of Age units. He could do more damage, a little bit harder to deal with. So I'm going to throw him into 90 right now as well. Okay, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Next, we are going to go to the 100 and 110 cost list. Let's go ahead and just reveal let's just reveal the 100 cost list right now. Okay, here we go. We got King Bradley, Roth, Shalze Soul, Young King Elda, the new Lucio, 2P, Wind Veritas, new Kitone, who I think I might get some pushback on this one. She's dominant. And then new Dario. Okay, I want to start with King Bradley. I really thought about knocking him down a little bit, but I still think if you're running Earth, he fits into basically all of the best Earth teams. He does all of what Earth wants to do. And if you're playing in a situation where you can manipulate CT, his ability to lap people is still top tier. So I still think you got to pay full 100 cost price for him. Roth still feels like one of the best tanks in the game. She's also Dark Element, which I think helps her out in terms of like not having a direct elemental counter. So I think she's trending more towards 90, but I do still like her as a 100 cost unit for now. Shalze and Soul, they are kind of a combined thing. I think if you're talking about them individually, I might bump Soul down to 90, but Ice is pretty strong right now, and these are your better fire units in the game. So I do like them both. I think Shalze is an amazing cost 70 unit, and Soul feels worthy of the 100 cost. Young King Elda just does a lot of damage. It is really hard to kill, and he's brand new. That is a recipe for top of the line when it comes to 100 cost units in the game. I think he is only trending down. I think he's the type of unit that as the game moves forward, some people will pass him, but I think he lives. I think even when he moves down, he just lives down here in this like 90 cost aging pretty well damage dealing units with like Summer Glassy, for example. They're pretty close in power. I think he's a little bit stronger, especially his limit break I think is better than hers. New Lucio. Look, I don't use this guy much, but he's scary when I see him. He feels strong. You know, I'm looking at my notes. Look, I got him as 100 cost right now, and from what I've seen, he's good, but he's definitely trending this way, in my opinion. So let me know about him. I might update him on the next tier list, but for now, I'm going to put him in 100. 2P. Okay, Earth Evade is tough. Earth Evade is really hard to deal with. She's also a strike unit, so you can play her in kind of two different comps right now. She can be a strike with like Bridal Elia and Kitone. She can also be Earth Evade with like King Bradley and Halloween Lucio. She's really good, and they really did great with the newest Nier collab, giving the new units a lot of viability. Wind Veritas. Yep, great unit, especially because Pierce is good right now, and he pairs really well with Flagbearer Glassy, so I got him at that 100 cost rank. New Kitone, look, Strike's still good, and she's up there. She's only a 70 cost. You could have bought her for 47 bucks. I think she's just popping off. Like, I really think she's a great unit, so I have her up there. Is she trending down? Like, maybe she's trending down a little bit, but I still think she's good, so I'll keep her there. And then new Dario, haven't seen enough of him yet, but on paper he looks like a really good tank. I'll tell you what, I did the same thing to Water Veritas, so I'm going to go ahead and do to win Dario. As I'm going through this in my head, I'm going to make a couple of changes. I'm going to move Dario down to 90 with kind of an asterisk. I'm also going to move no, I like the rest of this for now. I was thinking about moving Lucio or Kitone down, but for now I'm going to keep those as my 100 cost stronger units in the game. Okay, lastly, we got to do that 110 cost here. These are the units that I think are the best in War of the Visions. Let's see who they are. And there you have it. My top 4, I'm putting 4 units at 110, are Bridal Elia, who admittedly is hanging on to that tier by a thread, but I do still think she is the linchpin for mono strike teams. More on that here in a minute. Halloween Lucio, who if you want to run Earth Evade, I think Earth Evade is one of the top comps in the game, and I think he is Earth Evade. He's core to that. Now, 2P challenges him. I could see them teaming up in the 100 cost here maybe pretty soon, but I'm going to leave him there for now. If I was putting these in any sort of order, I would have young Helena up here towards the top, and then there's A2 as well, who really brought great swords into the scene. She is Like, look, again, she's hard to kill, she does a lot of damage, and her job type is like a strong job type in the game. It's mostly, I mean, the vision cards help a lot, but she's the unit. She is the great sword unit that kind of brought them forward. So they're firmly in my mind at the top of that list. Bridal Elia and Halloween Lucio, I could see falling down a bit, but I still just think these are some of the scarier units in the game when you see them, right? Bridal Elia, the reason I kept her up here, she can still knock CT down on the enemy team. There is nothing more like destructive in a PvP match than your team not getting turns. And if she has haste, and you typically build her with haste, and she runs out there, hits all 3 people on your team with CT down, and that moves 1 or even 2 of them just down the order, and they end up getting lapped by her or someone on her team, and they have CT up going for them or something, you're done. You're done. Now, strike resist is a thing now. She's no longer the best unit in the game by a long shot, but I still think she's on that top tier. Halloween Lucio, maybe he does live here. And like, maybe I'm a little more comfortable with Halloween Lucio in the 100 cost list, but I just, every time I thought about that, I still wanted to put him at 110. He just feels that good, and he's not even a 100 cost unit in the game. At least these other 3 are 100 cost units in the game. This dude is not even. I just think he's that good. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but there's my list, y'all. There's my list. If I zoom out a bit here, I'll try to get the whole thing on the screen. There it is, my UR unit tier list for War of the Visions 2024. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with certain placements on this list. This is my opinion, and so far I feel pretty good about it. You can see I had to think of a lot of different characters. So if you have something that you would like to see changed, again, drop a comment. I actually enjoy reading the comments on these. Just be nice to each other, please. Be nice to each other. Let me know who you think goes up and down. And if I did happen to miss a unit, do let me know that as well. There it is. If you're pulling and you want to know somebody to pick, I basically say if you have any of these units that I've ranked 90 plus, I think you picked well. And these rank 80 and even rank 70 units, still very viable in the game. And if all you have is these 60 rank units, well, I'm sorry. That's rough, but long live the Church of Eileen. Okay, guys, I'm signing out. Catch y'all next time. Peace.